What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Forecast. Today, I am doing the Combine recap where I'm breaking down the biggest stock movements from the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. I'm your host, Grindberg, and I'm spotlighting 10 risers, 5 fallers for fantasy managers that need to adjust their boards immediately. These aren't just testing numbers. These are shifts in draft capital, landing spot potential, and fantasy projections that could make or break rookie drafts. Whether you're prepping for dynasty trades, rookie mocks, this episode gives you the edge to identify value risers before the NFL draft in April and avoid those fallers. Lock it in. Let's stay ahead of consensus and let's get this party started. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Fantasy Forecast Combine Recap right here exclusively on FSAN, where I'm going to dissect the NFL Scouting Combine through pure fantasy football lens. Be sure to check out the Dynasty Pulse that just dropped on Saturday, where you get a scope of all the upcoming running backs that you're going to need to get your eye on here. Dave Kluge was a special guest, and the crew, they were rock solid this week. I'm here shifting gears to the biggest risers and fallers in Indy at Lucas Oil Stadium this weekend, and I'm covering 10 risers who boosted their stock to elite testing and workouts, plus 5 fallers who left questions unanswered and tanked their metrics, from running back setting, speed score records to blazing wide receivers in the 4.2s and a quarterback jumping out of the gym. I'll break down RAS scores, advanced metrics, and these performances that will impact their NFL roles, draft capital, and your fantasy roster. So let's get this party started with the first guy, and that was Mike Washington, making waves, 6'1", 223 pounds. Big wingspan, 40-yard dash was the star of the show yesterday, folks. That was the 4.33 10-yard split, 1.51, and that vertical jump of 39 inches, broad jump 10.8, and the 3-cone drill, shuttle, and bench press he did not do, but a RAS score of a perfect 10. Best score, number 1 ranked out of 2,100 running backs since 1987 in that metrics. What an incredible performance there from Mike Washington, and he exploded onto the fantasy radar. I mean, if you've been checking out our show here on the Forecast and the Pulse, you know already a lot about Mike Washington. We've been steaming him up. I had him as high as my RB3 headed into the Combine, and well, folks, guess who's my RB2 now? And that's Mike Washington. He exploded onto fantasy radars. No longer will he be, considered a fantasy sleeper, but now that Combine dominance, he showcases workhorse size, elite speed that could translate to a 3-down role in the NFL. His 4.33 40 at 23 pounds screams big play potential. He's got a great athletic profile, making him a prime candidate for early touches in a committee or even a lead back duties if he lands in a run-heavy offense like the Chiefs or the Commanders. For fantasy leagues, he's a high upside RB1 with tantalizing, outcomes here. RB1 potential here, folks. Yes. Yeah, you heard that right. In the right situation, the guy tested incredibly. Washington, Chiefs come to mind. He's got the yak ability, the contact balance that could yield RB2 production with RB1 spikes. However, Washington, his in his vision and his pass protection and those fumbles, 10 fumbles could be certainly something that scouts are going to be looking at. His group of 5 background before, Arkansas raises concerns about his level of competition, potentially, capping his draft capital to day 2. but delay in fantasy relevance if buried behind a depth chart. But fantasy managers should temper their expectations year one for volume, as Historica data shows that running backs with elite RAS scores but middling college efficiencies often scheme fit to break out. So overall, stash Washington as a mid-first round pick right now. He's probably going to be steamed up there now, probably in the 107, 108 range. He's a high reward, league winning potential if the landing spot aligns. I would prioritize him over those left athletic backs in this class. Steamed right up to my RB2 now, and he's going to have some long-term dynasty value, but monitor his pro day for agility drills to confirm his all-around profile. Another guy that just popped off the charts on Saturday was Jeremiyah Love, and the testing there off the charts. 6 foot, 214 pounds he weighed in, wanted to lose some weight. So I'm interested to see there. 40-yard dash, 89th percentile, 10-yard split, 100th percentile. Speed score was approximately 110 for his strong frame. He burst onto the scene, participated in both running back and wide receiver drills, wanting to highlight his versatility. Jeremiyah Love has solidified his RB1 status in this class with a blistering 4.36 40, combining speed with a stout frame that suggests he can handle NFL workloads. His dual threat ability shown that, in the RB and the wide receiver drills position him as a fantasy gold mine in PPR leagues, reminiscent of that Alvin Kamara early career versatility and receiving upside if drafted in the top 10. Overall, to the Commanders or Chiefs, Love could command 200 plus touches as a rookie, offering RB1 potential right away in high volume offenses. And I think he could be even steamed up, folks, into the top 6, top 5 conversation now with the metrics we saw here on Saturday. That said, Love's incomplete testing leaves question marks about his long speed sustainability and the change of direction in crowded boxes, potentially exposing him to a committee risk if his vision falters against pro defenses. Notre Dame's shared backfield limited his volume stats, so fantasy value hinges on his draft capital. Anything below top 15 NFL pick could delay his breakout. Target Love as the 101 in rookie drafts. His athleticism confirmation makes him a safer bet than rawer prospects with immediately. He gets into that flex appeal for Dynasty cornerstone. He is that. RB1 potential written all over it. He's worth the premium in super flex leagues, and even in standard format, he is, the unquestioned, number one pick in all drafts when we talk about rookie scouting at this stage. And another guy, freakish athleticism that, piled onto the scene here on Saturday. The Razorbacks, they were performing here on Saturday, and Taylen Green's freakish athleticism, record-setting jumps, and a sub 4.4 40 at 6'6" screams fantasy upside as a dual threat quarterback, potentially adding 700 rushing yards like, those Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson like players. And, he's being comped here to a guy like Anthony Richardson, which isn't too far off, but maybe he could throw the ball a little bit better. He tested better than Richardson. His rushing floor could yield him QB1 weeks early, boosting his redraft value as a mobile QB friendly system. Risk abound though. His 60% college completion percentage and sack prone play, signaling processing issues that could lead to bust potential if thrust into starting duties too soon. This weak quarterback class aside, his raw arm talent needs coaching, risking fantasy irrelevance if buried in a depth chart, but grab him late in the early first round, second round in Superflex rookie drafts at this stage. He's going to steam up there now. He's probably going to be going as the QB2, QB3. Ty Simpson also had a really good day, so I think he solidified himself as the QB2 in this class. But we're looking here at Taylen Green, Garrett Nussmeier, also had a really good day. So, these guys could steam up here as guys in the second round in rookie drafts, and we'll see what draft capital brings to them and landing spot here. But yeah, riser there for sure. Taylen Green, what a fast 40 he was on Saturday. Now, another guy here that I was been all over this whole draft process, still staying put as my wide receiver 5, but Omar Cooper at 6 foot, 196 pounds, great arm length, wingspan good, 40-yard dash, 4.42. His 10-yard split was great, but his 3-cone and his gauntlet was superb. Solid 4.42 40. That yak prowess evoke comparisons to guys like Stephon Diggs, positioning him as a PPR monster if drafted in a pass-heavy offense like the Bengals, Vikings. His production paired with combine confirmation, it boosts his day 2 draft capital, offering wide receiver 2 upside as a rookie chain mover with red zone reliability in all formats here. Loving Omar Cooper here. I think that he could potentially steam up into the first round here in the NFL drafts. And if he does that, wheels up for him. Concerns linger about his average size speed combo, potentially, limiting him to that slot role, capping his deep threat appeal against elite corners. Incomplete testing also hides agility metrics, risking a slide if pro day disappoints, delaying his fantasy impact. But he's a safe mid-second round rookie pick, prioritize, in PPR, steady flex production. I see him going for sure. Probably sooner than that. I'm seeing him in savvy drafts going at the back end of the first round. I see him steaming up in maybe even towards the middle part here, depending on how things play out, if you're looking at tight end premium or not. I like his traits. He's a safe pick for me. He's going to be a priority in PPR leagues, steady flex production, and if he can avoid an alpha wide receiver in a room here, he could really turn good dividends to fantasy managers. And a guy that I've been steaming up, and a flag plan for me was Omar Cooper, and still keeping that flame alive after a great combine from him. And another guy who had a great combine, similar size, similar frame, similar playing style, and a guy that I have as my wide receiver 4, just one spot ahead of Omar Cooper. And I'm talking about KC Concepcion. What a great day he had as well. That electric gauntlet and route running addressed his hands concerns, making him a versatile wide receiver 1 with gadget potential, like a Deebo Samuel in PPR leagues early. Day 2 draft capital buzz suggests immediate targets in creative schemes, just like Omar Cooper. He's being rumored to be steamed up into the first round here, folks. And if he does that, loving the outcome here. This draft class, although maybe a little bit weaker on the quarterback top heavy side here, this wide receiver room is certainly with some gems in here, and KC Concepcion is one of that. Skipping, the testing fuels some doubts about his top end speed, pigeoning him as a slot only option and limiting his fantasy ceiling against those physical D-backs. Transfer history from NC State to Texas A&M hints at some inconsistency issues, but target him late first, even towards the middle of the first round. His playmaking screams boom potential. Pass on if his athletic testing depletes here at his pro day. But honestly, this guy has steamed up for me. And a couple of guys that, was kind of on the fence about, coming into the combine, the Denzel Bostons of like here, while certainly KC Concepcion improved his draft stock here on Saturday. Another guy that improved his draft stock was Deion Burks, blazing speed, 40-yard dash, 4.30, 10-yard split, 1.49. Great explosive and elite vertical jump in the 100th percentile, highlighting his big playability in the slot or gadget role, evoking some Tyreek Hill light profile vibes that thrives in yak and returns fantasies league receptions here. This performance cements day 3 draft buzz, positioning him as a sleeper with immediate wide receiver 4 flex upside in high volume passing attacks where his burst creates chunk plays and boom weeks. In PPR formats, his gadget usage could deliver consistent targets early, making him a high reward stash for teams needing speed off the bench. However, his small frame, 5'9", 180, and injury history raise durability concerns, potentially capping his target volume and exposing him to physical corners who disrupt his routes. Incomplete agility testing leaves short area quickness questions, risking a limited role if a team views him as a scheme dependent rather than a true separator. He's a late to second round, early third round lottery pick that's super appealing at this stage. Prioritize him in deep leagues and best ball for explosive upside, but temper your expectation as if his landing spot lacks creative usage. He's going to need that as a gadget guy. Now, a guy that Biggs has been high on, another small guy that just popped off the page with the fastest 40 of the day, and that is Brennan Thompson, 5'9", 164. He needed a big fast time to up his value here, and boy, did he ever at 4.26. Brennan Thompson, 4.26, fastest overall at the combine, third fastest wide receiver since 2023, cements him as a true vertical burner and game-breaking speed that translate directly to fantasy points in deep offenses. At 5'9", 164, his long acceleration and his elite top-end velocity make him a nightmare for safeties, ideal for big play wide receiver 4 roles in vertical schemes where he can stretch the field and rack up TD-dependent spikes. Dynasty and fantasy managers chasing upside will love his potential in best ball or high variance formats, especially if he lands with a QB that pushes the ball downfield. Maybe Patrick Mahomes could use that at this stage. That would be a great relationship there. The tiny frame, though, several, red flags pop up there. Limits his contested catchability and physicality. So, those downfield threats, they need to have that aspect as well. So he doesn't bring that to the table, risking, that gadget only snaps, injury prone, and struggles against press coverage or in traffic. So skipping additional testing leaves questions about his deceleration, route nuance outside those vertical concepts, potentially capping his specialized usage rather than a full-time contributor. He's a late, second round, early third round stash at this stage. I know he would be steamed up a little bit less, but that speed, target dependent builds. These are dart throws that have high ceiling, folks, and that's what we're looking for. So don't fade him in your leagues that value those boob potential plays. And another guy here, another smaller frame wide receiver, 5'11", 192, but I love his profile here. Great 40-yard dash at a 4.4. Skyler Bell, elite explosiveness, 41-inch vertical and 11.1 broad, combined with clean catches and drills, positions him as a contested catch threat with Mike Evans-like traits on a smaller scale. Ideal for red zone and intermediate fantasy production. His multi-alignment versatility on the outside and in the slot and high catch volume and workouts suggest immediate wide receiver 3 flex appeal in schemes that exploit mismatches, especially in PPR formats where his route polish and hands generate steady targets. Mid-round draft projection and non-power 5 background cap his alpha usage, potentially delaying volume if he starts as a rotational piece rather than a featured option. He's a solid mid-round rookie value grab. Balance rosters need dependable production, and with him, some spike weeks, they're there. And that ceiling could be there too. Great yards per route run. I love Skyler Bell, and he's steamed me up here in a couple spots. Bricked up for Skyler Bell here on the Fantasy Forecast, and Grindberg is loving it. All right, Jacoby Lane is my next guy that came in. Massive hands, 10.5 inches here. standout ball skills, best catch of the day, paired with solid testing, make him your prototypical red zone monster like Mike Williams, prime to be TD dependent, fantasy spikes and jump ball situations, but his size, speed combo, and contested catch prowess scream high-value targets in the end zone, offering wide receiver 3 upside with boom potential if he lands in a vertical offense that feeds those boundary receivers. His lean frame, it does, raise durability concerns and potentially limiting his physicality against press capping coverage, but the consistent volume early will be something to monitor. Early third-round pick with strong TD upside, stash for red zone leverage in dynasty formats, and another guy that I've been high on all through the process, a lesser-known guy because he's from a lesser-known school. You may have heard of his brother, Trey Lance, but Bryce Lance, the wide receiver, 6'3", 204 from North Dakota, near perfect 9.98 RAS score at 6'3", 204, screams alpha wide receiver traits like DK Metcalf with elite size, speed for vertical dominance, and contested catch wins that translate to wide receiver 1 upside in the right offense. His twitch, hands, and explosiveness in workouts position him as a high ceiling boundary threat capable of immediate wide receiver 2 production if drafted into a pass heavy scheme pushing the ball downfield. His FSC background, though, tempers his immediate expectations, potentially landing to a developmental path, delaying his fantasy relevance without strong capital. He's got some ceiling outcomes here, but draft capital is going to speak here. I can't see him pushing day 3, but a team could see that size, the relative athletic score, and take a stab on him. So hoping for that. Now, folks, let's get into our fallers. But before we do that, let's hear about what's going on here on FSAN and what's going to be dropping about a week's time. And it's going to be in-depth scouting reports. It's our rookie guide. Be sure to check it out. And let's hear all about it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Sports Advice Network NFL Rookie Prospect Guide, built by fantasy managers for fantasy managers who want an edge before draft day even arrives. The Devi Dojo and the Fantasy Forecast squads have been grinding film and data, breaking down over 70 offensive prospects with fantasy football in mind. Every profile includes college production, athletic testing, advanced metrics, and role-based evaluations that translate directly to your dynasty, redraft, best ball, and superflex leagues. The first release drops Monday, March the 9th, with a fully updated post-NFL edition coming 1 week after, complete with landing spots and fantasy outlooks. Make sure to get your copy at release. Everyone who grabs the early edition receives the updated version at no extra charge. With the Fantasy Sports Advice Network NFL Rookie Prospect Guide, winning your league isn't luck. It's doing the work early, staying ahead all season, and forcing your league mates to play catch up from day 1.
All right, let's get back to the action here and let's talk about our